But with platforms like YouTube and Twitch and others, we've uncovered an exciting new industry currently worth an estimated $10 billion worldwide. And in China, a report from China Central Television claims the Chinese esports market alone will be worth $3 billion in 2020. Now, as you might imagine, that has caught the eye of a number of leagues and clubs, the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, and digitally savvy AS Roma are all involved. Barcelona have launched a Rocket League team, and even Espanyol, their little brother, their near neighbours, have followed suit. Bundesliga have obviously led the way with esports, but now LaLiga and the Premier League have started their own esports competitions. And of course, it is a way of diversifying revenue, and of course, it's a way of reaching that valuable but elusive millennial and Generation Z audience. And do you know what else? Footballers themselves love gaming. In fact, some of them are even invested in esports firms. So are you convinced yet? Well, if not, you should be, because it is happening and it's been happening for some time now. But what is the picture here in Asia as regards esports and football? We're going to go for the boxing 1-2 combination for this session, which is called Esports and Football Strategies to Unify Paths. A roundtable will follow this next keynote. So please welcome on stage Kenneth, President of AESF, the Asian Electronics Sports Federation.
Thank you. You already made a very good summary of what I'm going to say about esports. So it's actually a pleasure to be here. Distinguished leaders of the world football industry, media members, friends, and all expertise of sports industries, good afternoon. I'm honored to stand in front of you here today as we witness a momentous and historical collaboration between us, the AESF, and WFS, where esports meets the traditional sports in this summit. Before I go any further, please allow me to share a brief introduction of what the AESF is all about. As the sole governing body of esports in the Asian region, we face an arduous yet fulfilling task of growing esports in the world's most populous region. Our aim is not only to change the public's mindset towards esports, as I just mentioned, but also to champion our athletes and the scene which they compete in. To put the numbers into perspective on how big this e-gaming and indeed esports industry are, as well as their potential, here are some of the statistics I would like to share. According to the stats provided by Riot Games, League of Legends, which is one of the most popular games around, the League World Championship clocked in at about 99.6 million viewers in 2018 during the finals, which means the viewership number is actually competitive to that of American football biggest event, Super Bowl, which clocked in at about 103 million in the same year. And what's interesting to see is that this number is due to grow on a year-on-year basis. And on a separate note, Goldman Sachs also estimates that esports viewership numbers to reach 276 million by the year 2022. Alongside that, revenue is also set to increase threefolds from 2018's 900 million or so over the same period of time. As sanctioned by the Olympic Council of Asia, the AESF prides ourselves with the role of spearheading the development and growth of esports in the Asian region. But we are fully aware that this cannot be achieved just on our own. Meanwhile, football is well known for their achievement in not only growing the sports scene, but also expanding it into a viable asset. Strong foundation is key for sustainable ecosystem to thrive on, and it is where football delivers in spades. As with all team sports, great teams and achievements are built on great teamwork and partnership. So it goes without saying that we are looking forward to a successful partnership with not only WFS, but with all of you in attendance today. Where football has proven to be a success in the past, the esports scene tries to emulate, if not improve on that. Esports has evolved to be more than just a handful of players competing on their favorite video games against one and each other in their living rooms. Everyone can be a gamer. With the diversity of titles available out there, we aren't exaggerating when we say that everyone has the potential to be a professional esports athlete, given the right environment, right training, and of course education and right opportunity. Which brings us to this point. Our first step, AESF first step in gaining mass awareness and relevance, started last year at the 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia, Jakarta. With 6 titles contested at the Asian Games demonstration games, viewers were treated to a spectacle of high-level competition featuring the best athletes in the world. And I'd like to pause right now to show you a short video of our achievements last year. So please, enjoy. Today is really an historical moment. We are making history together. I hope you enjoyed the video there, but part of our initiatives during the Asian Games is really to ensure that esports athletes were given equal status as their traditional sports counterpart, really to give them pride. So they were housed also in the athletes' village and also granting them similar status granted to all competing personnel. So realizing the potential of esports in the near future, football clubs all around the world have signed up many professional players to play under their banners. As we mentioned, PSG is one such pioneer, forming several esports teams for gaming titles such as Rocket League, Dota 2, and of course FIFA, to contest in various tournaments under their banner. When talking about esports, we surely cannot leave out one of the most watched titles out there, EA's Electronic Arts Sports FIFA series. First organized in 2004, the FIFA eWorld Cup is one of the esports tournaments which is closest to the home of football. As I've said before, esports has a long way to go to reach the heights of football. However, with proper planning, a well-maintained grassroots development, professional and scientific education program, and of course, the help of everyone in attendance today, this supposed pipe dream will be well beyond its way to become the next big thing in the sporting world. Again, thank you for your participation today in our panel of World WFS. We sincerely look forward to forging new relationships and, of course, strengthening existing ones. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome all our panel members. We're going to speak to you today. They represent experts in their field, and I hope that you have a good panel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth. Yes, that phrase, supposed pipe dream. No, it's not so much of a pipe dream anymore, is it? Fast becoming reality, the world of esports and the respect with which it's held in the world of sport. Well, Kenneth has set the tone beautifully for us, some great context there, some intriguing thoughts to consider and maybe to unpack further. So let's do so with our roundtable. It's sponsored by Tencent Games and co-organized by AESF, and it will be moderated by Hashim, Executive Director at Fútbolita. And Ash has her hands full today because she's got a half dozen worth of speakers, more than a handful, and they are as follows. Ramon Suzara, Chief Operating Officer of C Games, Mars Howe, General Manager of Tencent Games, Daniel Vicente, Head of Mobile and Gaming at LaLiga, Allan Phang, Head of Esports at AirAsia, Jong Seong, International Affairs Team Senior Manager at the Korea Esports Association, and last but not least, Terence Ting, Chief Executive Officer of Team Flash. Ash, a very good luck to you with these guys. Give them all a big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today in our panel. As you can see, we have the Avengers of Esports here today. I'm really excited to really pick their brains and find out more about the industry. It's a big buzzword, esports, and I think these guys are more than excited to share with you more about the industry. So I'm going to now actually get a little bit of summary about what you guys do, starting with Ramon from the COO of the SEA Games. Maybe you can really summarize about your position as well as your favorite game at the moment.
I'm the Vice Chairman of the Philippine Esports Union, at the same time of the Chief Operating Officer for the Southeast Asian Games this year in the Philippines in November. So, of course, I'll explain later why esports is in the SEA Games.
We'll get to that later. It's very exciting moments for Asian esports. And Mars, about Tencent and what you guys do. Maybe people here don't really know what Tencent is about. It is the biggest video game publishing company in the world. So what is the current, tell us a bit more about Tencent, maybe for those people in football who are not familiar.
腾讯是我们主要是 focus 在互联网的这个公司。那游戏是我们很大的一个业务。那我们的电竞呢，是从游戏业务里面衍生出来的全新的这个业务，现在也获得了大量的这个青少年和年轻的这些用户的这个喜欢。
In the past few years, we made many attempts and effort on the level of esports ecological construction, the dimension of the competition system. We built the most complete esports alliances, LPL and KPL in the world with reference to traditional sports. Established a professional system from public event, professional leagues to global competition, as well as professional athlete career guarantees.
所以我们在电竞方面也经过了差不多10几年的这个一些发展吧。那我们现在主要是在这样5个方面来重点去进行自己的工作。那首先是赛事，就是我们会有可以媲美 NBA 的这个观赛规模的这些英雄联盟和王者荣耀的这个赛事。
Yeah, League of Legends finals, S8 finals extracted around 9.6 million unique viewers, while a big number of viewers reached 44 million. These data have exceeded the most popular game of NBAs in a single event.
Thank you very much, Mas. It's a great response about what Tencent is doing. I'm now going to move to Daniel and your role, obviously head of mobile and gaming at LaLiga. Tell us a bit more about what you do and what does your role entail. Do you play a lot of FIFA, maybe?
Yeah, I play FIFA. That's my favorite game, for sure, personally and professionally. But I will tell you the second one to add something to the table. The second one will be League of Legends. I think it's a very, very cool game around esports. But clearly, I play FIFA since I was young, and that's the game I play. So I think everybody knows LaLiga, so I will talk more about my role. I'm head of apps and gaming, and what we do is LaLiga apps and games. So we develop, maintain, and evolve our apps and gamings. We do club service too. We help our clubs to develop their digital business. In fact, we are developing 22 club apps, official apps from our clubs. And we do business development. And around these business development activities, it appears esports 2 years ago. And it's becoming huge. And probably it's going to become a totally new division for the future.
We'll get back to a bit about what LaLiga is doing in the esports sector. I'm now going to move to the gentleman with the red AirAsia hat. You can't miss him, the head of esports at AirAsia. I need to maybe let people know as well what the culture of esports is like at AirAsia, and also what you do, what your role entails.
Hi, I'm Allan from AirAsia. My role includes doing esports activations internally to let our own all-stars, our employees, to embrace esports. So I help manage esports club for AirAsia All-Stars. And also externally, I also help out our Tune group of sister companies on their esports strategy, including AirAsia. And I'll share more about that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to Mr. Kim from Korea Esports Association. Obviously, Korea is a huge market in the esports. Well, maybe you can tell us a bit more about what your association does.
Actually, I started working in esports industry from 2006, and my main work is to organizing from amateur to professional and international events in Korea and globally. And these days, I'm focusing on the communicating with the more global partners to showing how the Korean esports is developed and going on. Actually, I was very interested in game from child. I was very interested in the game and still enjoying the many kind of esports dedicated games still. And so these days I'm running the many kind of League of Legends and FIFA or Clash Royals and Overwatch. The games are very interested in games. Who the young generation is very interested in.
Thank you very much. I'm going to round up the panel now. A bit of introduction about Terence Ting from Team Flash, which is a professional esports team in Singapore.
Yeah, hi, I'm Terence. I'm the founder and owner of a regional esports team, Team Flash. So we actually have 23 esports athletes across Southeast Asia. So we're actually just 2 years in the market, so we're really, really new. I know there are a lot of football clubs here as well. So I'll share more about what it means to actually own or operate an esports team later on.
Thanks, Terence. I'm going to go back to you, Ramon. It's a big topic that everyone's talking about, the inclusion of esports as the first medal game for the first time ever this year. You were a great champion of it. You were advocating for it, I hear. So tell us more a bit about how we got to that stage.
Okay. This year, the Philippines is hosting the Southeast Asian Games. It's the biggest Southeast Asian Games in the history. We have 56 sports for the first time in the history of the SEA Games. And we have esports as a medal sport. There are two important persons here why esports was included in these 56 sports. Racer owner, Million Tan, who introduced the esports, and of course, Kenneth here, who is the president of the Asian Esports Federation. So this is the biggest SEA Games. 2 years ago, Malaysia hosted the SEA Games. And last year, it was a demonstration sport in the Asian Games in Jakarta. But for this year, esports with 6 games will be officially the medal sport of the Southeast Asian Games. Maybe the first one in a multi-sport event. Normally, it's a single event, but for Southeast Asia, it's the biggest one with esports as a medal sport for the first time.
Well, of course, you mentioned the Asian Games. How are you guys intending to improve from last year's showing? How is it going to be? Because a lot of people out there are going to be esports not really a sport, you know?
Well, with the support of the Olympic Committee of the different countries, the 11 countries in Southeast Asia, Asian Esports Federation support, and the publishers, esports very unique. So we have 6 publishers here who are supporting us. Tencent is one of them. Thank you, Tencent. And with proper guidance from the Asian Esports Federation, I think we'll make this quite big. We have a big following in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. So again, like this morning, I met the Olympic Committee Secretary General. So the Ministry of Sports are supporting esports in Malaysia. But I think the support of the media and broadcasting is very important for the success of esports, not only in Southeast Asian Games, but maybe in the next Asian Games in Hangzhou, and maybe in the Olympic Games and the next Asian Games in Nagoya.
I noticed FIFA is actually not going to be one of the games contested at the SEA Games. All right, I'm going to move on to Mars. Well, of course, Tencent is the largest video gaming company in the world, as I mentioned earlier. What are you guys doing to maintain the ecosystem and keep it thriving, the esports ecosystem?
Thank you.
Sorry, the mic is not working for one.
所以刚才有讲，我们其实除了在现在世界上最大规模的这个电竞比赛之外呢，我们还做包括大量的这个人才的培养，还有包括我们与政府相关的机构，还有和中国因为很大嘛，很多不同的地方进行这个相关的这些政策的这个沟通。那么这些是为我们整个电竞在中国地区的这个整个的这个发展打好更好的这个基础。
Esports, Tencent Esports also actively promoted the establishment of social positive value, helping esports quickly enter the public's field of vision. Together with AESF, we hosted the Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau Esports Open Class. Okay, they use the esports as a channel and bridge to answer questions for the youth. Our League of Legends has also released a sub-brand called LPL Care, which will pass on the positive social values and public welfare activities as one of the most important construction contents. We hope that through behavioral practice and ideological guidance, we will influence more people and convey warmth to society.
Thank you. It's a lot about implementing new policies as well for the grassroots, I believe. So I'm going to move on now to Daniel. We're going to get to what LaLiga is doing in esports. Of course, Bundesliga has done quite a lot, as well as Paris Saint-Germain in terms of their esports teams. What is LaLiga doing? Is it a league basis or is it team to team? Maybe you can tell us more.
In LaLiga, every team decides what they want to do or not, what projects they want to face. From the league perspective, we propose the projects, and we have proposed to participate on football games. Football games in the environment, we have mostly FIFA, Pro Evolution, and Rocket League. We have an agreement with EA Sports, long-term agreement, so we tell the clubs to go through FIFA. But we as a league, we have proposed some other activities. We have built a tournament around a game called Adrenaline in partnership with our partner Panini. And it was a project to feel how it feels to be a publisher. In this industry, there is a major role, a stakeholder that has 100% of the control, that is the publisher. And we wanted to feel that, so we decided to approach this project. And we obviously built the national tournament around FIFA. And we also faced another project, very interesting, and reason why I'm here today. We have built a team. It's called LaLiga Esports team. It's not a professional team for going through the general rankings or the international tournaments, but a marketing activity and marketing activation. And it's the way how now we are activating esports internationally. We came here to play against Team Malaysia. So yesterday we played the best two players in Spain.
You guys didn't win, right?
We lost.
That shows, for
Asia
example,
is so
that
powerful
Asia,
on this. But it's cool. It's a really cool activity. And it's the start of the international project of LaLiga, an international brand, and it's going to be international also at the esports industry.
Speaking of LaLiga, there are some footballers who also have their own esports teams, like Gerard Piqué, Mesut Ozil. They all form their own FIFA teams. Now, actually, I'm going to move this question to Allan because a lot of non-endemic brands are coming on board to really sponsor esports without really knowing, what it's about. It's more for commercial reasons. So, what do you think about it? I'm not hitting AirAsia or saying that AirAsia is one of them, but it's more. What do you think of that? And how can we make sure that they really understand the industry better?
Well, for us, to be honest, personal confession, I didn't know what is esports back in June 2017. We got into it by accident. We found out that the owner of the airline, Tony Fernandez, knows about esports, and the pilot came up to me and shared with me that. I'm like, what is esports? I never heard this strange title before. And he told me about Twitch. I'm like, what is Twitch? I thought Twitch is Twitch your eye. When I Google it, I found out the millennials, the Gen Z, the eyeballs, the projection. wow, every brand needs to get involved in that. This was back in June 2017, and we did this jersey. The one you see me wearing now, it was my own money. We spent about 4,000 ringgit. You can't claim from the company because nobody knew us
All
esports.
passion.
Yeah, and we gave it to 100 C-suite executive, branding, marketing folks. Just a short story. And within overnight, everyone knew about esports, and even the owner of the airline, Dato' Kamarudin Ramon, actually paid me back my 4,000 ringgit because he saw the potential in it. And we have 4 pillars for AirAsia. First one is employee engagement. So after 6 p.m., what does your employees do? They have scuba diving sometimes, during the weekends or during the holidays, or futsal, or you have a bowling. So why not esports? So we formed an esports club for employees. We started with 10 staff, and now we have 200 over inside our group. AirAsia has about 20,000 employees, and the average age is 25 years old. So we see a lot of gamers in that group. So we have like Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, they can play each other. First one, employee engagement. Second one is employer branding. Your next generation of employees, they're going to graduate from uni and college. What do they like? They like esports. So AirAsia supports esports. Wow, I want to join that company. That's good for HR, yeah?
It's great for branding, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a free marketing. The third one is esports tourism. This is an untapped market. Everyone knows about football tourism. Now you got K-pop tourism, BTS and stuff like that. And also medical tourism. We believe there's going to be a next wave of your next generation of customers, average age of 18 to 35 or even younger. They're going to be your customers for the next 20, 30 years. Why are they involved now? So we believe that esports tourism is one way to bring them together. And the fourth one is the ecosystem, supporting like teams, leagues, influencers, shoutcasters. So there's a whole potential over there.
So it's a lot more about developing the sport from a whole perspective.
Yeah, there's a whole 360 ecosystem, not just about playing the game as a pro player. There's a whole element to it, like a production crew, shoutcasters, and you got sports psychologists now getting involved in esports. Yep.
Thank you very much, Allan. I'm going to move on now to Kim. Of course, you come from Korea, which is a place which has a high cultural value when it comes to esports. What do you think other nations can learn from Korea when it comes to developing the game?
Actually, the Korea esports started from late 90s, and it explosively developed a company with the IT technology development in Korea. As you know, that there's many young generation enjoying esports as their common life, and they enjoying every time the games and consuming esports contents. Actually, we didn't think. Actually, tell the truth, Korea is not a first country who started the esports, but we did a big role in the developing esports. By making the first esports dedicated broadcasting company in 2000, and making the professional esports system from early 2000. And actually, we established the world first esports association in the world, the CASPA. By having the over 20 years esports experience, these days we are communicating with more countries who are wanted to making the esports from grassroots. There is over 40 countries registering esports as official sports, and about over 20 countries in Asia is registered the esports as official sports, like SEA Games. And compare in professional side, esports is very well organized these days. So they are having many expanding their values all over the world. But compare with the traditional sports, esports is just take it some steps, because in the amateur side we need more help. Taking help from the professional side to making we need more help, and we need more interest from many esports stakeholders to develop from grassroots, and by doing so, we could more well organize the esports ecosystem from the bottom to the top. So we are very focused on the communicating with many federation side, like the AESF. And so this kind of event organizing by the World Football Summit is very important to us to making more deep interest from all over side of traditional sports.
Thank you very much, Kim. I'm now going to move on to Terence. Well, you are a team CEO of your own esports team. What are some of the common pitfalls or challenges you face when it comes to new investors or even new advertisers or brand owners that want to invest in maybe Amran or one of your FIFA athletes? Do you face any challenges, and how do you deal with it?
I think for us, there's a lot of education at this stage. So we're actually just looking to really educate the brand marketers, the CMOs, what esports really is about, right? And there's so much that I can get into, but it'll take a whole afternoon. But I think really at the end of the day, there's a unique opportunity here for content creation. It's not just slapping a logo on the jersey, just like in traditional sports. I think with esports, because of the digital nature of gaming, there's a lot more untapped potential, right? In terms of how to activate, like whether it's a branded content series, even a player series which really goes into, the life of a professional esports athlete, and then finding ways to tell the brand story from there, right? I think in the past 10 years, there's been mostly endemic brands that's been investing. So your gaming hardware brands like Razer, Logitech, just to name a few. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot more non-endemic involvement. So you start seeing brands like AirAsia come in, airlines, you have FMCG brands like Red Bull, Monster. There's so many categories right now of brands that are interested in esports. And the main reason is really because it touches a very elusive audience, which is the millennial young generation, from 13 to 24, right? And that's a really hard audience to reach right now. Like traditional media, it's super difficult to actually not just reach them, but even get loyalty from them, right? And the esports team, very similar to traditional sports, also has that ability to inspire loyalty, just that from this young generation of fans who are all gamers.
Speaking of age group, I think also the younger ones, like between 11 years old to 16, there is a huge untapped potential there, as you mentioned. So I'm going to now go back to, since we are at the World Football Summit, I'm sure many of you out there want to know how we can learn from esports and vice versa. So Ramon, maybe you can share, what can esports learn from traditional sports and vice versa?
I think for like football as a Olympic sport, it's a traditional sport. One of the challenges this year for esports as a medal sport is to educate the players, because esports as a single event, they need to educate that they become a national team representing the country. That's number one. Number two, they need to go to a doping test, which is normal for the SEA Games, Asian Games, Olympic Games. So most of the esports competition, they don't go for doping tests. Second, the commercial value or publicity of esports is so huge, so wide, but in any multi-sport event like the SEA Games, Asian Games, Olympic Games, there is a limitation on publicity on uniforms, sponsors. So we're trying to put inside esports as a regular sport now for the SEA Games and hopefully in the Asian Games and maybe in the Olympic Games. So these things we need to educate our players in esports, following, of course, the traditions of football as an Olympic sport. So there are many things that we need to learn from football, of course, correlating with football and esports. So these are the challenges this year. And we had a Southeast Asian Games esports workshop about 2 months ago with the guidance of the Asian esports. And we're trying to educate now each federation in Southeast Asia on how the athletes should address this come SEA Games in November.
I guess it's also values of an esports player that it's important that a professional player could learn from. Maybe, Mars, you can share a little bit. What do you think, the esports industry can teach football? Since as a traditional sport, we are more physical and esports is more...
So I want to try to speak in English myself. Thank you. Yeah. We have a football online game. We're licensed by FIFA. It's a professional football game. So we training our user and the player to play this game. It's the first. The second one is we have a lot of corporate with our Chinese professional football clubs. They play traditional football game, but they have a lot of fans want to play football game online. So we have same target to make all the users to make them happy and join a lot of events. The third one, I think we have a lot of internet new technology and a lot of new technology about to big data to make the manager, make the user to know what is the professional way to play the game. And the last one, I think we have a same target user with traditional football. So we can have a lot of co-marketing with traditional football. So I think there's many different areas we can cooperate with traditional football. Yeah.
Thank you, Mars. What about you, Daniel? I mean, obviously, from LaLiga's perspective, you do a lot of activation with your legends. What are they doing with esports that's kind of complementing each other that they could learn from each other?
Yeah, I think esports and football are very similar in many ways. Previous of the conference, we have seen a video, and what you see there is boys and girls playing video games that they are filling stadiums, and the content is broadcasted. So mostly is what we do, and so many synergies around the industry will come out. But probably the main synergy is the audience. I think football now has the big audience, the massive audience, but esports has part of the future, of our future audience. So for the young people, young guys, watching 90-match game is not that easy. Many of them, for many of them, it's a challenge. So we are losing bit by bit some customers, and we need to face this challenge. And esports can provide part of these customers, because young people want to be involved, and I cannot see a better way to be involved on football than playing FIFA. You feel the player, you feel the team. So probably many customers of our customers for the future will come from the esports industry.
Speaking of challenges, I'm now going to ask Allan, what are some of the challenges esports is facing right now?
Just to share, as a non-endemic brand entering the space, it was quite a challenge for us because there's no Bible in esports. It's very new. Some say it's like football 100 years ago. And so for us, we actually went on ground, talked to the community, engaged with them. And just to share a brief one about how AirAsia got involved in the space. So within 6 months, after getting our employee program, AirAsia All-Stars Esports Club, for employees, within 6 months, we sponsored Mineski, a Dota team, very popular in Southeast Asia. They also were part of the international last year. It's a $25 million prize money in Canada. And within 3 months later, we sponsored Alibaba's WESG. Alibaba has an esports tournament around the world. And 3 months later, we bought over a majority share in Mobile Legends team. It's a Mobile Legends team in Malaysia. And 3 months later, we announced upcoming AirAsia Esports Center, about 30 minutes away from Kuala Lumpur. It's in Klang. We're going to convert an existing shopping mall into an esports hub, seating maybe about 500 to 600 capacity, and also an area to develop talents like a production crew, shoutcasters. So just sharing for all the football clubs here today, how you can, just an idea, you can take it and add value back to your local community. Maybe you can use your current stadium as a venue to host esports local community events. And the second one is to get your players play a game during their breaks. The difference between esports and traditional sports is that, example, the David Beckham in the traditional world, he talks to the reporters one-on-one, but there's no way to communicate, interact with the fans. In the esports world, the David Beckham over there communicates directly with the fans. And imagine like Ash is a football star, and she's like, hi Ramon. And Ramon like, wow, Ash replies me. He noticed me. That's very rare. You don't really see it in traditional sports. So get your local superstars to come into the esports world. They will love you, and they'll really appreciate it that you enter it in this way. Do a lot of research, because not every game title in the world might be popular in your particular region. Example like Fortnite and Apex Legends, very big in the US, but in Southeast Asia, it's more to Mobile Legends, PUBG Mobile from Tencent, and other games. So it depends on region. League of Legends very big in the US as well, in Europe, but in Southeast Asia, it's very big in like Vietnam, example. And so yeah, there are many ways to engage. So my advice to you is to go engage your local communities, because that's the challenge. There's no like one-stop solution. It's a shapeshifter. Games change very fast. There's easily 20 over games. Of course, maybe you want to have FIFA as one of the games, but don't forget the other games, because esports has different segments of communities catering to different games.
Fantastic tips, Allan. Thanks. I'm not going to go to Kim. Obviously, there's some challenges as well that you may face in the esports world, even though South Korea is like the birthplace of esports. So did you encounter any challenges and how did you overcome them?
Yes, actually, we started it from esports from 2000. We still have many challenges from the outside, and so we are focusing the latest overcoming the misunderstanding about the esports. We are separate the meaning of the doing game and the doing esports, because doing game is just consuming their time for their enjoyment for alone. But esports is kind of the social activities, because connecting with others, doing game with together. That is the esports. So esports make it some people coming out from their room and from their couch, and making the relationship with their friends, with their families, and with others who are enjoying the games all over the world, and they are esports making showing their performance to the publics. That is the difference of the meaning of doing game and doing esports. That's why we are focusing more operating the esports event with our government, and that's why we are more communicating, expanding with the federational side. That's why we are focusing. That's the meaning of esports, and that's the best way to overcoming the misunderstanding about the esports all over the world.
Thank you, Kim. I'm going to go to Terence now. Obviously, back to what you said, Allan, about athletes, feeling closer to their fans and vice versa. Well, for you, what do you think about that, and the power of esports to be really able to change lives and get fans that kind of experience that maybe traditional fans don't get?
I think really it's down to technology as well, because in the past, esports is not new. So it's been around for like more than 10, 20 years. The first ever competitive video gaming tournament was like in the early 1990s, and there were a few other smaller iterations as well. But I think what has really helped to boost the exposure of our space has really been platforms like Twitch. So live streaming is probably what Allan was referring to. So like as a gamer today, as a live streamer, I actually have the ability to broadcast myself to millions of people around the world, right? And that's something that I think esports is very unique about our space lah. So really, the live streamers in our space really can speak to their fans directly. Everything is integrated, and you actually can do unique brand activations from that space as well. So as a team, I think the IP that we really own is actually our media channels, like how we speak to our audience. And that's what we constantly try to build. And that's basically our KPI as well, our operating metrics. So, getting a bit businessy, but basically, I think that, it's really about how you talk to the fans. And the digital nature of esports just really allows for that opportunity today, right? Even outside of the competition, players can actually live stream themselves. They have proper schedules.
Tutorials too on FIFA, on Twitch. Yes, I've seen those.
Yeah.
Okay, Terence, I have to ask as well, since we are speaking about that. Obviously, esports, people don't know psychologically and physically whether they have to go to the gym to train, but it actually happens, right? So let's say you have a tournament tomorrow, a FIFA tournament, and you want to win. How can an esports athlete learn from a traditional football athlete, in terms of, their preparations?
So one of the exciting partnerships that we signed this year was with the Singapore Sports Hub. And earlier today, Take-In was also here, CEO of Sports Singapore. And what we did was actually we started a physical training program for our esports players, because we do realize the importance of being physically fit and healthy. especially when we send to our esports players to international competitions, when they're going up against the best in the world at that game, you need everything, you need every edge that you can find. So for us, physical fitness is something that we don't overlook at all. And I think there's a common misconception about our space that we're just gamers, so basically we just play games whole day and we don't really go out of the basement. You know, we have proper training routines that really look into every aspect of what it means to prepare for a competition. And that really is not just playing the game. There's all kinds of analysis, research, the physical training that I already mentioned. So we really look into every part of that conditioning as well. Yeah.
All right, we're going to round up the discussion now to really find out what you guys' goal and hopes for esports the next 5 years. I would say, Ramon, we'll start with you first.
Anyway, I'd like to see esports now as a medal sport, starting with the Southeast Asian Games, is to educate our young people, not only mentally, as what Terence said. They have to be fit, they have to be healthy, they take on the diet, they prepare for the next match or the next game. So it is a big challenge for esports, following again the traditional sport like football. So there's a lot of things to be learned. Now that's inside in a multi-sport event, not only as a single event. So these are the big challenges that our players should look forward for the sport to be in a higher level.
Definitely exciting times. What about you, Mars? What is your hope for esport and the future in the next 5 years?
Okay, so I think now is a very big chance to esports because include our country and a lot of countries, government, and a lot of people focus on take care about esports games. So and we have chance to cooperate with AESF Chairman Hall, his team with us to join Asia Games last year. It's a very big chance to show our esports passion and a lot of things to the whole Asia countries. So, and you know, esports is a big business chance to about young people. So it's the future. I think we have a lot of chance to cooperate with other countries, other associate, and other some companies. So if you have some interesting to join esports, you can talk about some things with us. And you know, the mobile phone is very popular now. So we have a big number of new users than PC games. So all of the things show us the big chance. So thank you. We have some hard work for esports future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mars. And Daniel, rounding up your thoughts about esports the next few years.
For the esports industry in general, I hope it grows as it's growing. It's going well, things are going well, so something needs to be fixed, but it's growing fast. And from the league perspective, what I can see is a totally new industry. So I can see players living from esports. I can see tournament operators. I can see marketing managers. I can see psychologists. And what I would love also is to see women. That in football we are
definitely we need more women in esports.
Women, and I would love to see an academy too. I think education is very important. Many young people, many young guys are focused on esports right now, and they need to have a plan B because maybe they cannot be professionals or live around esports for their whole life. So I think education and academy from a federation or league perspective will be important to help them to have this plan B and build the environment properly.
Allan, an academy, an AirAsia Esports Academy maybe?
Yeah, totally agree that within the next 5 years, esports is definitely going to explode in the scene, especially with experienced the first wave after Asian Games last year as an exhibition sport, and now SEA Games in Manila, Philippines, end of the year, 6 medals in total with medal and points, and even like for AirAsia, we got involved in the space 2 years ago, thanks also to our branding team. We got Benjamin Rinja, I think it's my colleague somewhere in the crowd here, and also Rudy. It's not easy for brands to get involved in the space because there's no like I said earlier, there's no Bible, so it's very important for brands to get involved now because it's still a low-hanging fruit and still relatively still cheap. And who knows, it will definitely go up more and more. We've got franchise leagues coming up. And even AESF is doing a great job to educate the public and also in international media about the positive side of esports, as well as even our Ministry of Youth and Sports Malaysia actively engaging the community and the space as well. We have local state federations here in Malaysia, and also even in local governments around the world are starting to see the importance of esports. You got like President Jokowi in Indonesia, he did a President's Cup a few weeks back for Mobile Legends, and even the France government is involved in esports via engaging the youth via debate on Twitch. So it's definitely going to explode in the next 5 years.
Thanks, Allan. Just rounding up, a quick word on your hopes for esports. A quick word on your hopes for esports.
Actually, I hope the Asia will leading the world esports for more 10 years because there's the full experience in Asia, especially in a multi-sports event. Asia started in 2007 in Asia in indoor games as selected esports as the official sports. And last year we launched esports as a promotional sports in the Asian Games, and about 45 countries who joined to the Asian Games. Over half of the countries are already registering esports as official sports. So we could lead a more powerful esports business, esports industry from the Asia. So I think there's many good stakeholders and parties in Asia, so we could lead the esports of world esports in Asia.
And last word from Terence. What are your hopes for Team Flash in general and also esports?
I think in general there'll be a lot more structure going forward. I think traditionally esports has suffered from a lack of structure and mainstream awareness, and I think we'll start to see franchise leagues emerging in Southeast Asia. Actually, there are already quite a few established leagues, proper leagues, esport leagues that are being set up overseas in America, Europe, and China. So hopefully Southeast Asia will be next. That's basically where I think the region right now is growing steadily fast. So yeah, we're just looking forward to the growth more towards this part of the region because the fan base here is huge as well. Like in markets like Indonesia and Vietnam, like there's more than 60 million gamers in those two countries alone. So we just see a huge potential for esports to continue growing in Southeast Asia.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you everyone for listening to our talk about esports and football. We hope you enjoyed. We'll see you soon. Bye.